Mr. Minnick helping my students with if statement worksheet number 2. Here we have a Python code segment. A variable named grade is being set equal to 85. Assignment statements like this always work from right to left. So that means an 85 plugs into the variable. Whether it says it at the top in the directions or not on this worksheet, for good style and safe coding, you should make a little column for grade and store the number 85 there, because that's just good scratch work. Then, because you did that line of code, you proceed to the next line of code and you analyze it. This is one big thing. This whole thing is called an if statement. But this part up here is, well, I just call that the if clause, because it's the word if. It's not elif or else. And we look at the set of parentheses here, and that's called a control expression. And control expressions are always either true or false. In this case, because the variable is currently equal to 85, we're asking, is 85 greater than or equal to 90? And that's false. So the computer does not execute whatever is indented right below that if. And it hasn't looked ahead yet. Unlike a human that can read ahead in a book, it doesn't read ahead. So it only goes line by line from top down. So because that's false, we cross that out according to the rules of my worksheet, and we look at the next part of the if statement, the elif clause right here. 85 is greater than 80, so this is true. Put a little t there, and now you know that you circle that print that's right below. And you're done, because you can never have two circles in the same if, else if, else if, else if, else statement. It can only be one. Sometimes it's none. I'll get to that later. But it's all at most one. So I will cross this out just so that I'm not confused when I look at this later. In exercise number 2, we have the variable grade, but it's now equal to 71. So I'm going to reflect that in a separate area of the worksheet here, because it's kind of separate from exercise 1. Put a 71 there. And true or false, that is false. So that gets crossed out. This is false. And anytime you have a false anded with something, it makes the whole thing false. So really, you didn't have to look at this over here, but let's look at it anyway. 71 is less than 90, so I'll put it true there. But it didn't matter, because when you have a 0 anded with a 1, that's like not eating asparagus, but eating broccoli, but unfortunately having strict parents say, you don't get dessert anyway. So we cross this out, and then we trickle down, and 71 is greater than 70, so that's true. And 71 is less than 80, so that's true. And when you have a true and with a true, it makes the whole thing true. I like to make a bigger T than the two small t's there. And I make it extra thick. So overall, this whole set of parentheses is true. And therefore, we do get the privilege of dessert, or really circling this. And we don't even look at the else, because a computer wouldn't even look at the else. It's like an inchworm. It just inches forward 1 millimeter of dirt at a time, and it can't see into the future like we can as 6-foot-tall human beings. Inchworms, like a computer, goes line by line and doesn't really see ahead. So this gets crossed out. But let's look at number 2. The final answer, I circled it. Number 2 is really the same as number 1. I could have put an 85 in here, and number 2 is just an extra good version of number 1, because the only difference in number 1 and number 2 are these and expressions. This and is just not there in the similar spot up here, and the same for this and. Well, think about it. Duh. I shouldn't say that in a video, but I will. If you are greater than 90, like a 99, that means you were eliminated here and you never trickled down this far. So why are you bothering to ask if somebody has less than 90 here? Why? Because all the people that had greater than or equal to 90, they've already been eliminated because of the top-down nature of it. So it's like perhaps saying to somebody, is your name true or false? Is your name Jay? When the young man says true, why do I have to say, are you a male? True or false? Because we all know that there is no woman in the world or girl named Jay. It's like you're already greater than 90. Now, I sorry to be offensive to that one person on YouTube whose name is Jay and she is a girl or transgender, but I'm trying to make a point. We sometimes don't add extra code that we don't have to. So I do like the answer to number 1, but I would not take off points if somebody wrote their own code and added that safe and expression that really is unnecessary in this particular example. Number 3 on this worksheet. Grade is 85, and now we trickle down from the top, and we ask true or false up here in the if. Oh, this is awkward. 85 is a larger number than 60, so we circle this, and the poor student that had an 85% gets a D, and none of this in the software Home Access Center eSchool Plus never even executes. This is a possible variation, but the coder that wrote that, the programmer, probably got fired or got in trouble, and that's a logic error. And it says up in the directions, you can read them, you're supposed to write logic error if you notice something that doesn't make logical sense. And you have to fully explain it according to directions for full credit. So just write a sentence or two of either how to fix it or why that's unfair in the world of normal school district grading systems. Moving on to number 4 on this particular worksheet. Grade is equal to 81, and we ask the true-false control expression at the top of the if, true or false, and that's false. So we ignore everything that's, it's not a print statement. It's another if-else statement inside of the if. Well, it gets ignored anyway. So everything that's indented there in Python gets ignored because of the false. You can do a what-if scenario, I think it's on a future worksheet, of what would have happened if it were true, but I don't want to get into it right now in this video. Anyway, we trickle down to the elif here, the else if, and 81 is greater than 80, so that's true, and this should be circled, and of course this should be ignored. So there's your full scratch work for exercise 4. You know what? You convinced me. Let's pretend that 81 was like 91. Let's pretend, even though that's not required here. In that case, using the color red, I'll play this through. That would be a false, no, that would be a true, I'm sorry. And then if you can still see here, 91 is not greater than 92. So that would be false, which means you ignore that and you would go to else. And because it's else, that means you would circle this no matter what. And it would say you earned an A, which makes sense. 91's an A. If I did this with 93 and yet another color, then this would be true, and this would be true here. And you would have circled this. And I'm sorry, I made a slight mistake. That was an A minus, so I might have said that you got an A when your grade was 91, but in red, it actually said you had an A minus. In school districts where they have pluses and minuses, a minus is usually like 91 and 92, unlike our school district that doesn't have pluses and minuses. And last of all on this worksheet, exercise 5. You know what? You can do this one on your own if you're watching this video. Good luck, because there's nothing tricky here. And it does have an or, but if you know what a truth table looks like, or you read my lecture notes, you should know whether that becomes true or false when the grade is 75.